Welcome, foolish mortal, to the Spooky Chris podcast. Jeez. My name is Chris Ringler, the aforementioned Spooky Chris, and this is my little slice of weird on the podcasting web. These are micro podcasts, just me spilling my guts for a few minutes. You can find this, all my backlog, and all my other cool stuff at spookychris.com. I am an author living in mid-Michigan. I've made a couple short films, have put on a whole bunch of horror shows, and am a doer of weird things. I thought it would be apropos to talk a little about kind of my impending future, which is fatherhood, which is a very strange thing indeed for me. My wife and I are expecting a little girl in, looks at watch, less than 2 months. So when I say impending, it is impending. So it's definitely been a lot to think about and a lot to kind of digest. And I'm sure, it's one of those things that obviously for the rest of our lives, this is kind of like the new reality we are going to get used to day by day. And I don't know quite where to start, because it's a weird, it's a big topic, but maybe the easiest place to start is just being straight. And I had never wanted kids. I had a troubled childhood, like just personally. I had a lot of emotional issues. I went through a lot. I would rather call myself manic depressive than bipolar, because manic depressive fits better what I go through. Because bipolar just seems too clinical, and manic depressive, like the mania is the kind of the more dangerous of the two, because you act so irrationally and rashly. But I've lived with that my entire life, and so I never really wanted a kid. I didn't want them to have to kind of go through what I've gone through emotionally, and just the weird, wild roller coaster that I have. I was never in a place, in my head to kind of want that. I mean, shucks, then you kind of extrapolate that to a long string of short-term relationships with only one lasting over a year. And I mean, it makes sense that I never really would have wanted kids, because I didn't have any stability. I had jobs. I always kind of had jobs. I've had jobs, since I was 15. But none of them were jobs that, you can look at and say, like, I'm an adult. I'm making adult money, and this is all great. And so that's one of the things too. Is, I mean, shucks, I didn't move out of my parents' house till I was 27. And it's funny because how quickly I moved out, I could have gone any time. It was, I'm sure it was fear. The fear of, like, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? I don't know what it means to live on my own. But it was also economics. I worked at a convenience store, at a vitamin store at the time. And I didn't know if I made enough to, have the audacity to move out. Well, it hit me one week. I just had decided I am too old to, frankly, be bringing girls home to my parents' house, and I realized I needed to be an adult and get the heck out. And so, I decided on a Wednesday I was moving into my new place that Sunday. I basically took the first place I looked at. It wasn't great, but it was affordable. It wasn't bad, and it gave me kind of a new start. But for a long time I didn't have jobs, like career jobs. It's only in the last, I don't know, I think 15 years that's really happened, and it's hard to kind of get in your head like, well, this is what I make, this is what I can do, and then you start to think, oh gosh, now you have to come up with, like, again, bills don't get smaller, health doesn't get better generally, and then you kind of bring a kid into it. But it wasn't until I had met my wife that kind of the idea really started to plant about having a kiddo. It was funny because I remember early on, my wife had asked me, it's like, do you want kids? And I was like, no, not at all. And she's like, oh yeah, me neither. And it's one of those things it's a question you ask. It's a feeling out question you ask somebody when you're getting to know them romantically. It's like, it's just that when you get together kind of, and it's, oh yeah, do you want this? Do you want that? I had been with someone previously, my other long-term relationship, and they had really wanted a child, and it wasn't something I could offer them. And again, like, I was just kind of set in my ways. And I don't believe, my wife Amanda meant what she said. I just think it was one of those where it's like, we had just gotten together, and she didn't want to push the issue. And again, maybe she was in a place too where she didn't know if she wanted kids. And time goes on. And I made her wait for sure. Like, I didn't propose for 7 years, I think. It was a long time. Like, it got so bad that she was doing the Beyonce, like, put a ring on it dance thing to me. And again, I didn't know if I was ready. I didn't know if I made enough money to try to get married. I lived in an apartment in downtown Flint. Everything kind of changed once I got the house that I'm in now. And again, suddenly you're an adult. And that's what's the weird thing about adulthood is it sneaks up on you. Like, whether you like it or not, it's coming, and it just kind of sneaks up on you, and it's there. And there's no getting around it. It's there. And, one day you're just kind of hanging out all night watching movies and being a dork, and then the next you're in a house being a dork. But yeah, it wasn't until we got married in 2013 that it all kind of started kind of like, do you want to have kids? Because she kind of reached a place where she was, really had come to terms with it and wanted to have a kid or kids desperately. And I still didn't. But as we got closer and things kind of calmed down in my head and in my heart, I kind of reached a point where, I'll always be manic depressive. That'll always be kind of something I have to deal with. But I reached a point where I can kind of deal with it, and can kind of cope with it, and can start seeing the future more. I was a suicidal kid for a long time. The only thing that got me by on some of my dark times was just like the fantasy of like, well, you can just kind of pull that plug any old time, buddy. Well, you reach a point where you have people that rely on you and love you and need you. You're too much a part of their lives, that you can't do that to them. You can't just tap out like that, as if it's nothing. And I reached that point where I wouldn't do that to my wife, my family, my friends. I reached a point, and maybe that's one of those things where I moved out. I got to see the world. I got to see some of myself. I got to live a little. I got involved in the arts. I got involved, met tons of new people. Like, it's weird. It's weird how different. I grew up in a small town, and it's weird how much changes once you get out of that and get out of that mentality. Like, I'd never been around black folks. I'd never been around gay people. I'd never been around a million things. I was ignorant to tons, and then I went to college and kind of got out into the world. And luckily for me, it's kind of a baptism by fire sometimes, but luckily for me, it was a positive thing. It was a positive effect. It didn't make me xenophobic and fearful and hateful seeing the world. It made me compassionate and empathetic, and made me want to be better and do better and see kind of my past and regret some of my, all of my ignorance. I was an ignorant kid. And it's understandable. When you're not around things, you don't see those things as a reality. You see it as like a word. You see it as a parody, as a joke. So it's one of those things like, I don't blame myself for my ignorance, but it would have been my fault if I didn't get past it. And yeah, adulthood just happens. And once I got involved in the arts, I got involved in like this horror stuff that we do with my friends and I started putting books out, and suddenly I kind of took control of my life and my future and my present. And slowly I kind of realized like maybe things don't have to be for her, for them. At the time it was them, what they were for me. My wife had a serious health issue not long after we got married that put the timeline back, because we kind of made the decision like, well, let's try and see. Let's see what happens. So we weren't able to really pursue having a kid for, a couple of years because of the medication she is on and because of her recovery. And then it was just, things weren't working. It seemed like it was one tragedy after another, and it's hard to kind of create life when you are like going through something like we were going through. We lost friends like that. We had friends that die. I lost my mom. I got fired. She lost her mom. We lost two of our dogs. So it was a hard time to think about kind of bringing someone in, because how do you emotionally and physically, your bodies just aren't really, I had to think, in sync to do such a thing when you're just kind of long-term grieving. So we reached a point where it was just, we finally turned to IVF, which is controversial to some, which is weird to me. The whole notion of, I don't know, we have science for a reason, like whether you believe in a deity or not, we have it here for a reason. And like creating life in this way doesn't seem like it's a bad reason. So whatever someone's drama is about that, it's their drama, not mine. So we tried that. We tried it initially with a smaller procedure, and as luck would have it, we did it on the day her mother died. So it kind of just wasn't going to happen. Like, I just don't know physically how her body could have, done that. Like, pregnancy is a hard thing. And that kind of seemed like the last straw. That seemed like that was kind of it for us. Because it's just, how do you cope? Like, how do you, it's everything you've done isn't working. So it just didn't seem like it was going to happen. We decided to give IVF one last try, like a full IVF, which is this crazy expensive thing, and we had to get a loan and all this craziness. Because it's weird, it's a procedure, so it's medical stuff, but insurance doesn't cover that kind of thing. So it's just a weird kind of. It's a weird idea. It's a weird, all of this is weird. It's just like adoption, you have to end up, kind of paying for that kid that you adopt if you can adopt. So it's weird, the expense of IVF and like the medication and all of that. It's a crazy process, to put it mildly. But we decided to do that and got the loan and started everything. And my wife, bless her heart, like it's one of those things where it's easy for me. Like this isn't, if you can look into the process, but this wasn't a hard thing for me to be a part of this. The hardest part was changing my heart, and that changes over time. Like I said, I reached a point where I wasn't the same guy that was kind of this angry kid that didn't look at the future. Like I say, I'm different. But the process for her has been just terribly hard. It's been very hard on her. And it's not something you can go into lightly for a dozen reasons. And waiting to find out if it worked is just so crazy. It's weird because when she took the first pregnancy test, she'd had a couple, and one read pregnant, one read positive, one read negative. So we just didn't know. So I went and I got 2 more pregnancy tests, and 3 of the 4 read that she was pregnant. But still, you worry, like, is this real? It didn't feel real. It didn't feel real in the slightest, because at that point, so early in the pregnancy, and this was considered a high risk pregnancy, but you don't want to get attached because so many times families lose those kids early. And there's a point where you just have to kind of guard yourself, and you have to guard your heart. There's only so much kind of heartbreak you can live through and just kind of survive. And it's rough. But as the weeks ticked on and we got deeper and deeper, this was more and more a thing. We had a scare early on where she had to go to the ER. And again, you just don't know. Like, we both, I think, in our hearts kind of accepted, like, this just may be what it is. We may have lost the baby. And we still didn't know, what their gender was, what their sex was, whatever. Didn't have a name or anything. And I remember sitting in we're in the time of COVID, so I sat in my Jeep in the parking lot of this hospital while she was in the ER for 4.5 hours. And all I can do is just sit and wait. I texted with my sister, and there's nothing to do. All you can do is wait. And it was miserable. It was absolutely miserable. But we got through it, and slowly but surely, like, time ticked on, and we went to appointments, did all the things. She's been taking medication, like injections into her rear, into her abdomen, into her arms. She developed gestational diabetes from this. So it's been, to say she is a trooper is like, there's no way we can tell our daughter how much her mother had to do to bring her to us. And again, you don't want to tell your kid that, because you don't want to seem like the old, like, do you know what I went through to bring you? Like, that kind of thing. It's just not, that's not what we would do. But, gosh, I remember, so my wife had to get some testing done, and when she got the results, it came back, and it had, like, we had, in this packet thing, like, as an online thing, is a gender. Do you want the gender revealed? And I'm like, it's up to you, honey. And she's like, yes. And so you click a link, and it says again, "Are you sure you want the gender revealed?" And she's like, "Yes." And then that was when we found out we were having a little girl. And it was adorable because she cried. And we started talking about names, and we came up with Lilith Maeve. We weren't sure. We decided to hyphenate it, and it's just, this is our miracle baby. So it's kind of, she deserves a name befitting her. So we picked names that kind of meant something to us, that meant something historically. Lilith being a woman that refused to bow down, that refused to accept the way things were. And Maeve, I believe, was a queen of fairies. I forget. For her middle name, we put together my mother's name and her mother's name. Her mother being Kathy, my mother being Marilyn, and gave her the name Kathleen. And then took my last name. And again, suddenly this little thing that's growing inside her is now, it's a girl, and she has a name. And who she chooses to be someday, what name she chooses, she could be Lilith Maeve, she could be Lily May, she could be Maeve, Lilith, Kathleen, whatever she chooses. It's a name, just like whoever she chooses to be. That's for her to decide. But for the moment, the person we know as she's developing is Lilith Maeve, our daughter. And it's weird. It's so weird. Because again, like, you start to love is weird. You know, anyone that's ever fallen in love is weird. Again, it happens when you aren't looking. It happens as an idea and then becomes a thing. Like you fall in love with the idea of someone, with the idea of something, and then when it's reality, it tells you like, oh well, no, this is real. This is a thing. And suddenly, you know, you can see her moving in my wife's body, and she is there, and you fall in love, and suddenly you're just like, oh my gosh. And you talk, and you have all these plans, like, you know, well, what will you do about this with it? And oh my gosh, I'm desperately afraid. I don't know what kind of father I'm going to be. I don't even know what kind of husband I am. I barely am a decentish person. So it's a lot. Like, I know, you know, we're going to do the best we can by her. You know, she won't live in luxury, but she'll hopefully not live in poverty. We're going to try to give her a fun life, a fun childhood. She has 2 doggo siblings that are going to love her to pieces and that are going to play with her, and they're just going to love to have someone to play with other than me and my wife. But it's weird, putting together all these kids' toys. And it's weird having a child in the middle of this pandemic. You know, my wife and I weren't able to have baby showers. So my wife's, you know, she hasn't been able to really celebrate this child much. Luckily, she was off. She was laid off of work for the first 3 months of the pregnancy. So I think that helped because it let her body rest and let her kind of just develop this baby. But it's strange because, yeah, like, we don't have mothers now, so that's weird and hard for us because we don't have them to get excited about this baby. Her father's gone, so we just have my father. And it's, you know, we can't really go and celebrate with friends. We can't have these showers where kind of everything is remote. You know, you adapt because the point is that we're going to have this little girl in 2 months. But it's all weird. It's all weird. Like, again, we have to be more careful about where we go, what we do, all of that. Because it's not our health, it's hers as well. And again, like, it's weird. It's weird putting together this crib and like all of the things she needs, and now decorating her walls and building this room that's her room. That is her room. She will have dreams there and make memories there and cry there and hope there, and depending on how long we're in this house, maybe like fall in love in that room, get her heart broken. Like that's her place. That's her little space in this world until she gets old enough to kind of go out on her own. And it's just all so weird. And you think of this world, and you think of the terrible things that we've done to it, and the terrible people we've given voice and power to, and it scares you to death. It scares me to death. Because she's inheriting a pretty deeply damaged world, and I worry about her, and I worry about what she's has to look forward to and what she's going to grow up in. But I also know that we have incredible friends. We have incredible families. And we have this support system that goes, again, it goes beyond blood. And they're going to make sure that she's okay. We have all these people that are going to be looking out for her and looking out for us, and that's what matters. And it's great because as we've fallen in love with her without even meeting her, so have all these other people, because they know how much, how hard we tried to have her and what we went through, and it's just one of those little miracles, and it's something joyful, and that's been in a dark time not just for us, but for the world. So there's hope. And it's, like I say, it's weird. I am officially a dad. I'm a girl dad. I get to go to a daddy-daughter dance someday, and I get to be the proud father of this little girl, and I get to watch her grow and get to encourage her to break through that stupid glass ceiling that it seems like won't go anywhere, that no one wants to get rid of. And I couldn't be happier and couldn't be prouder at the thought of who she can become. And again, whoever she decides to be is her decision. Whoever she decides to love, whatever. That's her. I don't get to decide those things. All I get to do is to watch her journey and to watch this little girl grow into something incredible and see what happens. And I'm scared, and I'm excited, and it's going to be one of those crazy, things like, I don't know, being a father at 46 is the wisest thing I've ever done, but I guarantee it's the smartest thing I've ever done. And that's about it. It's weird. Like I say, it's weird. It's weird trying to get your mind around it. But yeah, we're very excited for Lilith Maeve. I try to do voice recordings for her so that someday, if I'm gone before she's too old, or just so she has something, so she gets to know her father as a person, and not just as like, go to your room, do your chores, whatever. Which I can't ever see myself being that dad, but who knows? So she can see me as a person. We don't really ever see our parents as people. We see them as, our parents. We see them as mom and dad. We don't see them as people. And the thing is, too, is it's a fine line. Like, you don't want them to see you to me, I don't want her to see me as her best friend, kind of, and like, as her pal. And I don't want her to see me as this troubled teenager. I don't want her to see me as this person searching for value and for answers, not because it's shameful, but because I want her to be able to see me as someone not her dad, but that becomes her dad. And I guess I saying all this, I guess maybe if we saw the flaws in our parents, we'd forgive them more. I don't know. But I did that for her, and I wrote a poem for her, and made some art out of it, and I tried to do small things that mean something. everybody finds their way, I guess. So that's my little journey for this newfound girl dad. So I'm excited, like I say, but I'm scared to death. And we'll see what happens. As my throat gets full of frogs, I guess. Wherever you are, my friend, whatever you're doing, I hope you're well. It's an exciting time otherwise. My friend Paul and I just released the first book from our book label, Goblin Holler, and the book's called Unimaginable Tales of the Sasquatch, and we're very excited about that. So that's exciting as well on its own level. So it's an interesting time. But I hope you are well, my friend, whoever and wherever you are. And I hope that you are healthy and that you spend time with those you love when you can. And that's it. I am the aforementioned Spooky Chris. You can find all my stuff at spookychris.com. All of my published books, my blog ramblings, my podcasts, trailers to my movies, and everything else. You take care, traveler, and we will talk soon.